If you are here, it is likely because separation has tested your faith in ways you never expected. On the surface, silence may feel like abandonment. The lack of communication may have led you to question your worth, your intuition, or whether the love you felt was ever real. As a psychologist who works closely with the spiritual and emotional inner worlds, I want to name this honestly. The mind struggles deeply in uncertainty. When there are no visible signs, the nervous system searches for meaning, often filling the gaps with self-doubt, grief, or quiet despair. Many divine feminines carry this weight privately, holding strength for everyone else while wondering why love itself seems to have gone quiet. In today's message, we gently lift the veil on what is actually occurring beneath that silence. Drawing from countless sessions with divine masculines, this video brings forward a truth they rarely know how to articulate in the physical world. You will be guided into an understanding of their inner emotional landscape, how fear, protection, and unprocessed loss often block expression, not love. This is not speculation or spiritual fantasy. It is a recurring psychological and energetic pattern that emerges again and again when masculine hearts are unready yet deeply bonded. This message is shared on the third-dimensional plane so that confusion can soften into clarity and misunderstanding can be replaced with grounded awareness. By the end of this video, something subtle but powerful will shift within you. You will no longer interpret silence as rejection, nor absence as indifference. Instead, you will gain a steadier inner footing, one rooted in discernment rather than longing, trust rather than fear. This understanding does not ask you to wait, chase, or sacrifice yourself. It restores your sense of inner sovereignty while allowing compassion to exist without self-abandonment. If you stay with this message until the end, you may find that hope returns not as fantasy, but as calm certainty. A knowing that what has been unfolding has never been empty, and that love, even when quiet, has always been present. Section 1. Why the divine masculine struggles to speak in separation. One of the most misunderstood struggles the divine masculine faces during separation is his inability to speak openly about what he feels. From the outside, his silence can look like distance, avoidance, or emotional withdrawal, but beneath the surface, something far more complex is unfolding. His quiet is not born of indifference, nor does it signal a lack of love. It is rooted in fear intertwined with responsibility, devotion, and an instinctive awareness of consequences he may not even be able to fully articulate. For many divine masculines, words carry weight. To speak is not merely to express emotion, it is to initiate movement, consequence, and exposure. During separation, he often senses that the energetic environment, the matrix surrounding the connection, is unstable. External pressures, unresolved karmic entanglements, societal expectations, family dynamics, or internal wounds can feel like unseen forces hovering around the bond. In these moments, he does not experience silence as a choice, but as a form of containment. He withholds not because love is absent, but because love feels too sacred to risk. Protection is the first and most powerful reason he restrains himself. On a soul level, he may intuitively recognize that speaking too soon, too openly, or without the proper energetic foundation could place the divine feminine in emotional danger. He fears stirring hope that cannot yet be anchored, or awakening longing without the capacity to follow through. To him, premature truth-telling feels irresponsible, even harmful, and so he chooses restraint, believing that silence may cause less damage than words spoken without stability. This protective instinct often extends beyond the divine feminine to the union itself. He senses that the connection is fragile in its current state, not weak, but exposed. Like a seed that must remain underground until conditions are right, he believes the bond must be shielded from interference until it can withstand external forces. His silence becomes a barrier, a form of energetic guardianship meant to preserve something he holds as sacred. What makes this struggle especially painful is that the divine masculine often yearns deeply to speak. He wants to confess his love, his longing, his confusion, and his regret. Yet fear restrains him, not fear of feeling, but fear of loss. He fears that if he speaks and cannot act, he will lose her. He fears that if he opens his heart without having resolved his inner conflicts, he will fail the connection once again. And so he waits, carrying his truth inward, believing that restraint is an act of devotion. This silence is not absence, it is presence held inward. It is love compressed, not extinguished. And while it is often misunderstood as emotional unavailability, it is, in many cases, a profound expression of care, one that asks to be seen not through words, but through patience, trust, and spiritual understanding. Before we move deeper into the next layer of this message, pause here for a moment and notice what this understanding stirs within you. If this perspective brought clarity, softened confusion, or helped you see the silence differently, allow yourself to acknowledge that shift. These insights are not meant to be rushed, they are meant to land gently and integrate over time. If this resonated with your own journey, support the channel by liking this video and share your reflections in the comments so others walking this path know they are not alone. Or, if words feel unnecessary right now, simply type, "I trust the process," in the comments as a quiet affirmation of alignment. When you're ready, let's continue forward together into the next revelation. Section 2. Fear of loss, guilt, and the weight of self-judgment. The second reason the divine masculine struggles to speak is not rooted in indifference or avoidance, but in something far more intimate and vulnerable. Beneath the silence lives a profound yearning to express love, longing, and devotion in their purest form. Yet alongside that yearning exists a paralyzing fear, the fear that if they open their heart fully, they may lose the divine feminine forever. To speak feels like standing at the edge of an emotional cliff, where one honest confession could either bring healing or confirm their deepest fear of rejection. Many divine masculines are still carrying unhealed loss grids and lack grids within their energetic and emotional bodies. These wounds are not surface-level insecurities. They are deeply embedded beliefs formed through earlier experiences of abandonment, unworthiness, and perceived failure. Within these inner structures lives the quiet terror that the divine feminine may finally turn away, not because love is gone, but because of the pain he believes he has caused her. The mind tells him that he has already done too much damage, that his silence, confusion, or withdrawal may have crossed an invisible line. As a result, love longs to move outward, but shame pulls relentlessly inward, creating a stalemate within the soul. In private sessions, divine masculines often reveal a level of remorse that surprises even themselves. They speak of guilt that does not simply sit in the mind, but settles deeply in the heart and nervous system. This guilt is not performative or self-pitying. It is heavy, sincere, and often difficult for them to articulate. Many express genuine confusion over their own behavior, saying they have never treated anyone else the way they treated the divine feminine. They struggle to reconcile their actions with the depth of love they feel, unable to understand how someone they cherish so profoundly could also activate such fear-driven responses. What they are often discovering sometimes for the first time is that the intensity of divine love does not create wounds, but exposes them. The connection did not cause the pain, it illuminated what was already unhealed. The divine feminine's presence touched places within them that had long been protected by emotional armor, avoidance, or control. And when those defenses began to crack, the unprocessed grief, shame, and fear surfaced all at once. The silence, then, is not a lack of feeling, it is the weight of self-judgment pressing against a heart that has not yet learned how to forgive itself. Understanding this does not excuse the pain of separation, but it offers clarity. The divine masculine's struggle to speak is often a reflection of how deeply he cares and how afraid he is of confirming his worst fear that he is not worthy of the love he has finally come to recognize. Section 3. The mirror effect of the healed divine feminine. When the divine feminine heals and enters her own sacred inner union, a profound energetic shift occurs, one that does not require words, explanations, or effort. She is no longer seeking union from a place of absence, longing, or incompleteness. Instead, she has returned home to herself. Rooted in wholeness, anchored in inner peace, and deeply connected to God, she becomes a living embodiment of union itself. In this state, she no longer chases love, she radiates it. And it is this embodiment that transforms the dynamic entirely. Her presence becomes a mirror, not one that reflects inadequacy or judgment, but one that reveals truth. Her peace gently disrupts the divine masculine's internal noise. It activates introspection without accusation. Her joy, experienced without dependence on him, quietly invites him inward, asking questions he can no longer avoid. It is not her absence that moves him, but her fullness. Not her pain, but her grounded serenity. In witnessing her self-contained joy, he begins to sense what has been missing within himself. Her sovereignty is especially powerful. When she stands fully in her authority, emotionally, spiritually, energetically, she calls forth his own unhealed inner feminine. Without saying a word, she signals that emotional honesty, receptivity, vulnerability, and self-compassion are not weaknesses, but gateways. She demonstrates that safety can exist within the self, that love does not have to be earned through struggle, and that devotion to one's inner truth creates stability rather than loss. At this stage, the divine masculine does not turn inward out of fear, avoidance, or collapse. He turns inward out of recognition. Something in her healed state resonates with a dormant knowing within him. Through her embodiment, he sees what is possible, not intellectually, but viscerally. She becomes living proof that healing does not diminish love, it deepens it. Her wholeness grants him unspoken permission to face himself, to confront the parts he has hidden from, and to begin integrating the feminine qualities he once suppressed. This is the mirror effect of the healed divine feminine. She does not demand change. She does not wait in stagnation. She becomes. And in becoming, she invites transformation not through force, but through truth. Imagine a divine feminine who once waited anxiously for messages, measured her worth by his attention, and felt an almost constant pull toward reunion. Over time, she chose a different path, not by withdrawing in bitterness, but by turning inward with devotion. She began to tend to her own nervous system, her spiritual connection, her joy, and her purpose. Her days became full in a way that did not exclude love, but no longer depended on it. When the divine masculine encounters her again, whether in physical presence, communication, or even energetically, he feels something unfamiliar. There is no pressure in her field, no silent plea, no emotional urgency. She listens without reaching, speaks without explaining herself, and moves through life with a grounded calm. In that moment, he is not confronted by loss, but by possibility. He recognizes, perhaps for the first time, that love does not require self-abandonment. Her peace highlights his inner unrest, not as criticism but as contrast. Watching her choose herself without closing her heart awakens a quiet realization within him. If she could return home to herself, perhaps he can too. This is how healing becomes visible, not through instruction or persuasion, but through lived embodiment that gently invites the soul to remember what it is capable of becoming. Section 4. Healing the inner feminine as the path back to union. At a deep level of awareness, often beyond words, the divine masculine understands that return is not a simple act of coming back, it is a becoming. He senses, at the level of soul, that reunion cannot occur if he remains unchanged, operating from the same patterns, fears, or wounds that once created distance. To truly return to his divine feminine, he knows he must first turn inward and upward. This is where his work with God begins, not as a concept, not as belief alone, but as lived alignment. He is called to rise into integrity, responsibility, and spiritual maturity to meet the woman of God not from longing or lack, but from wholeness and truth. This elevation does not start with outward action. It begins internally, quietly, in the most vulnerable place within him. The transformation is initiated through the healing of his inner feminine, the part of his soul that feels, receives, intuits, and loves without armor. For much of his life, this aspect may have been suppressed, misunderstood, or left unprotected. Yet it is precisely here that his deepest restoration occurs. By learning to honor and cherish the feminine energy within his own being, he restores balance to his inner world. Healing the inner feminine means allowing the heart to soften without fear. It means listening to emotion without judgment and truth without resistance. At the level of the heart, he learns compassion for himself, especially for the parts that once felt unworthy, unseen, or unsafe to express. At the level of spirit, he reconnects with sensitivity, devotion, and reverence for life itself. At the level of truth, he stops running from what he feels and begins to stand present with it. This is not weakness, this is courage refined. As he nurtures this inner feminine with patience and love, something profound and unmistakable unfolds. The confusion that once surrounded the connection begins to dissolve. The noise quiets. The path back to his external divine feminine becomes visible not through chasing or effort, but through clarity. He no longer seeks reunion to fill an emptiness. He recognizes it as a reflection of the union already taking place within him. Healing within becomes reunion without. As the inner feminine is restored, the outer feminine no longer feels distant or unreachable. She becomes recognizable again, not as a memory or ideal, but as a living resonance. In this alignment, return is no longer forced, it is inevitable. Because when the divine masculine becomes whole, he naturally meets his divine feminine in the only place true union can exist on equal ground, in truth and in God. If you have stayed with this message until now, pause for a moment and acknowledge what that says about you. Something within you is listening, not casually, but intentionally. This is the place where understanding turns into integration. Before we move forward, allow yourself to reflect on what this has stirred in your heart. Have you witnessed this inner healing unfold in yourself or in your divine counterpart? Have you felt the shift where clarity replaces longing, where wholeness begins to feel possible? If you feel called, share your story in the comments. Your experience may be the mirror someone else has been praying for. Or, if words feel unnecessary, simply type, "I honor the healing within," as an affirmation. Let it stand as a signal to your soul, to the universe, and to this community that you are present, aware, and open to what comes next. Section 5. What the Divine Masculine Longs to Say. At the deepest level of his soul, what the Divine Masculine longs to express during separation is not confusion, distance, or indifference, but love pure, reverent, and unwavering. Beneath the silence lives a devotion so profound that words often feel inadequate to carry its weight. He wants to tell her how deeply he loves her, not in fleeting emotion, but in a way that has redefined his understanding of love itself. This is not attachment or desire alone. It is recognition. It is the quiet knowing that she has touched something eternal within him. He longs to tell her how intensely he wants to be with her, not merely to possess her presence, but to walk beside her in shared purpose, mutual respect, and spiritual alignment. In his heart, she is not an option or a convenience. She is home. He sees her clearly, often more clearly than he sees himself. He recognizes her as his goddess, not in fantasy or projection, but in essence. She embodies the sacred feminine energy that awakens his strength, softens his defenses, and calls him into his highest expression as a man. To him, she is the yin to his yang, the balancing force that brings harmony to his inner world. Where he is structured, she is fluid. Where he has learned control, she teaches surrender. Where he has known survival, she reveals devotion. In her presence, even from a distance, he understands what unity truly means. He feels, often without logic or explanation, that she is the one he is destined to unify with, not simply romantically, but spiritually, emotionally, and energetically. And yet, this very depth is why he remains silent. The divine masculine knows at a soul level that love expressed without integrity would dishonor the union rather than protect it. He understands that words spoken before he is aligned could create confusion, false hope, or imbalance. To speak too soon, without embodiment, would be to offer love without foundation, and he refuses to do that to her. His silence is not a lack of feeling, it is restraint born from responsibility. So instead of speaking, he works. Quietly, patiently, internally. He turns inward to confront his shadows, heal his wounds, and strengthen his sense of self. He learns what it means to hold love without fear, to choose truth over impulse, and to become a man who can meet her without distortion. Every moment of inner labor is an unspoken promise that when he does come forward, he will come in truth. Until then, he carries her in his heart not as a memory, but as a compass. And everything he is becoming is shaped by the moment he can finally stand before her, not just in love, but in integrity. What is coming together now is not the result of chance, effort, or force. The final reunification unfolds as a sacred, remembering a soul gently threading itself back into form on the third-dimensional plane. This is a union anchored in love rather than fear, in peace rather than urgency, and in divine alignment rather than control. Nothing about it is rushed. Nothing about it is accidental. Every step has been guided by timing that understands more than the mind ever could. Together, the divine feminine and the divine masculine become living teachers of unconditional love. Through their inner healing, they offer the world new templates for relationship templates rooted in God connection, emotional truth, spiritual integrity, and sacred union. Their journey is not only personal, it is collective. As they heal within, they shift what is possible around them. Love becomes safer, commitment becomes truer, union becomes something lived, not imagined. So keep going. Keep trusting the process, even when the path feels quiet. Keep working with faith when clarity hasn't fully arrived yet. Work with God. Work with hope. Work with your own inner divine love, because every moment of inner alignment is already contributing to the outcome. Nothing you have done in sincerity has been wasted. And watch this space, because what is unfolding is not ordinary. It is sacred, it is inevitable, and it is already in motion, whether you can see the evidence yet or not. If this message resonated with you, I invite you to anchor it. Leave a comment below clearly stating this quote: "I trust divine timing because love is already finding its way." Then, take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who may need reassurance on their journey, and continue watching the video below to deepen this understanding. What is meant for you is already moving toward you, and you are right on time.